Deep underground, 12 miners disappeared. One icy morning in January, a normal work shift became a nightmare. An explosion trapped them in the mine, leaving them in darkness with little air to breathe. Would anyone hear their calls for help? Would anyone survive this disaster? Let's find out. This is the story of the Sago Mine disaster and one man's fight to survive against all odds. The Sago Mine is located in Sago, West Virginia, near the Upshur County seat of Buckhannon. Anchor West Virginia Mining operated the Sago Mine. On March 23, 2006, Sam Kitts, vice president of the company, testified to the U.S. Mine Safety and Health Administration, or MSHA, about the company's exact structure. Sago is part of Wolf Run Mining Company, which is a subsidiary of Hunter Ridge Mining Company, which is all under ICG Inc., or International Coal Group Inc., which was created in May of 2004 by investor Wilbur Ross. Ross and his group had bought many assets from Horizon Natural Resources in a bankruptcy auction. ICG produces coal from 12 mining complexes in Kentucky, Maryland, and West Virginia, and one additional one in Illinois. Ross, with 4 other investors as part of New Coal LLC, wanted Horizon's non-union properties, but not its union operations. The bankruptcy court allowed Horizon to end its union contracts, including pensions. In March of 2005, ICG agreed to buy Anchor Coal Group Inc. In 2005, the Sago Mine was cited 208 times by MSHA for regulation violations, up from 68 in 2004. Of these, 96 were considered significant and substantial, also known as S&S. The Charleston Gazette reported that the Sago Mine had a history of roof falls. MSHA found 52 violations from April to June, 31 of which were S&S. From July to September, there were 70 violations, with 42 being S&S. And from October to December, MSHA issued 46 citations and 3 orders, with 18 considered S&S. Violations included not following roof control and mine ventilation plans, as well as issues with emergency escapeways and pre-shift safety exams. Now, for quick reference, S&S violations are violations that are likely to cause serious injury. Now, initially, MSHA's website stated that none of the violations were immediate risks, and all but 3 related to roof support were fixed by the accident's time. However, it now states that several 2005 violations were significant and due to high negligence, which caused MSHA to stop mining in the affected areas until the issues were fixed. In 2005, mining operations at the Sago Mine had more than doubled, and the injury rate was much higher than the national average. This led MSHA to increase its inspections and enforcement by 84%. As a result, as mentioned, MSHA took 208 enforcement actions, requiring the mine to quickly fix health and safety violations. Davitt McIntyre, former Assistant Secretary for Mine Safety, told the Gazette that the high number of violations indicated serious issues. He said that the frequent roof falls suggested poor roof support. On January 3, 2006, Bruce Watsman of the National Mining Association told Anderson Cooper 360 that many violations could be minor, like paperwork errors. However, McAteer argued in the Christian Science Monitor that the S&S violations showed serious problems. Ellen Smith, editor of Mine Safety and Health News, noted that Sago's accident rate was 17.04 in 2005, with 16 miners and contractors injured. In 2004, the rate was 15.9. The national average, for reference, was 5.66. In comparison, Kingston Mining No. 1 mine had an accident rate of 1.21 in 2005. On January 2, 2006, at around 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, a massive explosion ripped through the Sago Mine at the start of the first shift after the New Year's holiday. A mine fire boss had examined the mine at 5:50 a.m. and had cleared it for use. 2 carts of miners were heading into the mine to begin their work. The likely cause of the explosion was a buildup of methane gas, a flammable gas that can naturally occur in coal mines. When this gas mixes with air and is ignited by a spark, it can cause a powerful explosion. The blast was so strong that it caused tunnels to collapse, trapping 12 miners deep underground. Fortunately, one miner who was closer to the exit managed to escape. The trapped miners knew that they were in grave danger at this point. The explosion likely damaged the mine's ventilation system, which now cut off their fresh air supply. They also had to worry about the buildup of poisonous carbon monoxide gas. The situation was terrifying. Thankfully, the mine had a so-called curtain, which was a large sheet of fireproof material. The miners used this curtain to seal themselves in a small chamber, hoping they could hold back the bad air long enough for the rescuers to reach them. Now, early reports suggested that there was a thunderstorm in the area at the time, with lightning strikes near the mine possibly being the source of igniting the methane. Sensors detected at least 2 cloud-to-ground lightning strikes near the mine. Another theory was that lightning struck a methane well that had been previously drilled from the surface, which could have possibly ignited the methane. Methane wells extract methane from coal seams and then can form sealed areas where methane levels are high. Storm systems with low atmospheric pressure can cause more methane to escape from these areas. Winter air, being drier and less dense, creates a drier mine environment, which has been known to contribute to past mine fires and explosions. 14 men on the second cart escaped the initial explosion. The 12 trapped miners were on the first cart, which had apparently passed the explosion point. The foreman on the second cart, whose brother was among the trapped, along with the mine superintendent and 3 others, entered the mine to rescue them. They reached 9,000 feet into the mine before their air quality detectors indicated too much carbon monoxide to safely proceed. Additionally, repairs that they had made to ventilation controls raised fears that increasing fresh air to the interior of the mine might cause a second explosion. The trapped miners now faced a horrifying and uncertain wait in the dark, unsure if help could arrive in time. After the explosion, the mining company didn't call a specialized rescue team until 8:04 a.m., which was more than 90 minutes after the explosion. They informed MSHA at 8:30 a.m., beginning their calls at 7:40 a.m. MSHA made calls at 8:10 a.m. to staff who were away for the holiday. MSHA personnel arrived at 10:30 a.m., and the first rescue crew came 10 minutes after that. Rescuers were delayed for 12 hours due to the high levels of carbon monoxide and methane gas in the mine. Tests conducted through drilled holes from the surface showed that CO levels, or carbon monoxide levels, of 1,300 parts per million where the miners were last known to be. And for reference, levels above 200 parts per million are considered unsafe. Each miner had a self-contained self-rescuer, or SCSR, that supplied 1 hour of breathable air. Emergency supplies were kept in 55-gallon drums within the mine. Even after the gases decreased, rescue teams still had to move carefully, continuously checking for dangers like water seeping in, explosive gases, and unstable roofs. They moved slowly at about 1,000 feet per hour, checking every 500 feet, and also turned off their phones in order to avoid sparks. MSHA then sent a 1,300-pound robot into the mine, but then they had to pull it out when it got stuck 2,600 feet in. After searching for more than 9 hours, rescue teams left the mine at around 3:40 a.m. on January 3rd. They left because turning on the mine's air monitoring system could cause another explosion due to bad air quality. A hole being drilled to check air quality could also set off methane because of the hot drill bit. Teams then returned at 6:22 a.m. The 13 trapped miners were about 2 miles inside the mine, approximately 280 feet below ground. They were trying to navigate through narrow passages that were just 5.5 feet high. By 12:40 p.m. on January 3rd, rescue teams had reached 10,200 feet into the mine. It was estimated that the trapped miners were somewhere between 11,000 to 13,000 feet from the entrance. To locate the miners, 2 holes measuring 6¼ inches or 15.9 centimeters in diameter were drilled from the surface into the suspected areas. Microphones and video cameras were then lowered into these holes for 10-minute intervals, but no signs of life were detected. Air quality tests conducted through the first hole on January 3rd showed carbon monoxide or CO levels of 1,300 parts per million, which officials described as very discouraging. A third hole then hit the groundwater and couldn't be drilled all the way down. Now, ultimately, the first indication of the miner's condition came at around 5 p.m. on January 3rd, when it was reported that a body had been found. Due to the location, some believe that it was Terry Helms, the fire boss. Later that night, around midnight, rumors spread that 12 of the 13 miners had been found alive. However, 30 minutes later, the rescue team informed company officials that this initial report was incorrect. Early on January 4th, 41 hours after the incident began, rescuers found 12 miners dead. Randall L. McCloy Jr. was the one miner who was still alive, but in critical condition. The other miners were found about 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers inside the mine, behind a makeshift barricade in a section known as the second left part. About 3 hours later, company CEO Bennett Hatfield confirmed that McCloy was the only survivor. This was the first official announcement since the miners were found. After the first reports of survivors, ambulances and the hospital ER were made ready. Hatfield said that carbon monoxide levels where the miners were found were between 300 to 400 parts per million when the rescuers arrived. This is close to the safe limit to support life for 15 minutes. Hatfield suggested that carbon monoxide poisoning was what likely caused the deaths. He stressed the company's commitment to supporting a thorough investigation by federal and state mining officials. Of the 13 miners who were trapped at the Sago Mine, only Randall L. McCloy Jr., age 26, survived. He was rescued at around 1:30 a.m. on January 4th and taken to St. Joseph's Hospital in Buckhannon, West Virginia. After being stabilized there, McCloy was then transferred by ambulance later that morning to West Virginia University's Ruby Memorial Hospital in Morgantown, about 50 miles away. McCloy suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning, a collapsed lung, brain hemorrhaging, swelling, muscle injuries, and problems with his liver and heart. It was a harrowing ordeal for him and his family as doctors fought to save his life and treat his severe injuries. On the evening of January 5th, McCloy was then transferred to Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh. There, he received oxygen treatments in a special chamber to help with the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. He returned to Ruby Memorial Hospital on January 7th and then remained in a coma. By January 18th, doctors noted signs that McCloy was slowly waking up. On January 25th, they reported that he was waking up from his coma, but he still couldn't speak. On January 26, 2006, West Virginia hospitals announced that McCloy had been shifted from Ruby Memorial Hospital to Health South Mountain View Regional Rehabilitation Hospital in Morgantown. He was under the care of specialists focusing on rehabilitation. While he was responsive and able to eat, McCloy still couldn't speak. McCloy made significant progress after months of intensive physical therapy. However, he still had problems with his vision and hearing, and he also felt weakness on the right side of his body. The 12 miners who tragically lost their lives were honored with private funerals that were held from January 8th through 10th, 2006. A public memorial service took place on January 15th at West Virginia Wesleyan College in Buckhannon. Over 2,000 attended the service, which was broadcast live on CNN. Governor Joe Manchin and West Virginia author Homer Hickam spoke at the memorial. Senators Robert Byrd and Jay Rockefeller, along with Representative Shelley Capito, also attended to pay their respects, though they did not speak. McCloy had written a letter to the families of the victims, published in the Charleston Gazette on April 28, 2006. He remembered that 3 weeks before the explosion, he and Junior Toller had found a gas pocket while drilling. Gas detectors had showed that there was methane. They had stopped drilling and they had told their bosses about it. The next day, McCloy saw that the gas leak had been fixed with glue that was meant for bolts. On January 2, 2006, right after stepping off the mantrip, McCloy described how the mine quickly filled with smoke and fumes, making it difficult to breathe. He mentioned that at least 4 emergency oxygen packs weren't working. McCloy shared his oxygen with Jerry Groves, while others like Toller, Jesse Jones, and Tom Anderson all asked fellow miners for help. Because the air was getting dangerous, they had to give up trying to escape and they had to go back to a coal rib. There, they put up a curtain to protect themselves, making a small enclosed space that was about 35 feet wide. They tried to signal their location to the rescuers by hitting the mine bolts and plates. They got a big hammer and they started taking turns hitting for a while. But it made them breathe harder because they had to take off their rescue gear to hit as hard as they could. Unfortunately, they didn't hear anything back from above. After getting tired, they stopped signaling. McCloy then said, quote, "The air behind the curtain got worse, so I tried to lie low and take shallow breaths. I could tell it was full of gas. Toller and Anderson tried to find a way out, but they quickly came back due to heavy smoke and fumes." Again, McCloy said there was just too much gas. At this point, despite their fears, now McCloy says, quote, "We started to accept our fate. Toller led us in the sinner's prayer. We prayed a bit longer, and then someone suggested that all of us should write letters to our loved ones." McCloy continued, saying, quote, "He felt very dizzy and lightheaded. Some drifted into what looked like a deep sleep, and one person near me collapsed off of his bucket, not moving. It was clear that I couldn't help him. The last person I remember talking to was Jackie Weaver, who comforted me, saying if it was our time to go, it was God's will. As my trapped co-workers lost consciousness one by one, the room grew quiet, and I just sat, waiting, unable to do much else. I don't know how much time passed before I also passed out from the gas and smoke, waiting for rescue." On January 5th, notes written by some of the miners who passed away were given to their families. West Virginia Governor Joe Manchin came to the Sago site on January 2nd. Congresswoman Shelley Moore Capito was also there with other officials and family members. The Mine Safety and Health Administration had about 25 people there at all times, according to their website. On March 11, 2006, the Associated Press stated that federal inspectors had given approval for the Sago Mine to reopen the day before. According to the Village Voice on March 16th, the mine resumed operations. The newspaper criticized this decision, pointing out that the cause of the explosion was still unknown and questioning whether the mine was safe from similar accidents. Despite concerns, both federal and state safety officials allowed the reopening to proceed. ICG Inc. ultimately shut down the mine on March 19, 2007, as reported. Then, on December 12, 2008, they announced through their website that the mine would be permanently closed. On January 9, 2006, Governor Joe Manchin appointed J. Davitt McAteer, former Assistant Secretary for Mine Safety and Health, to lead a state investigation into the Sago Mine disaster. The investigative committee included former miner Mike Caputo, Eustace Frederick, Bill Hamilton, Senators Jeff Kessler, Shirley Love, and Don Carruth. Governor Manchin initially scheduled a hearing for March 14, 2006, but it was postponed to May 2nd at the request of some miners' families. McAteer emphasized the need for a thorough investigation in order to gather all relevant facts. The U.S. Department of Labor, through MSHA, launched its own investigation on January 4, 2006 to determine the cause of the explosion and also ensure future safety. They formed an independent team in order to inspect the site, interview personnel, review records, and examine equipment. On January 18, 2006, Internal Coal Group, or ICG, objected to United Mine Workers of America, or UMWA's, participation in the investigation. UMWA President Cecil Roberts denied any manipulation and defended their role under MSHA regulations. A federal court later ruled in favor of UMWA's involvement. The investigation prompted public scrutiny of MSHA's Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, policy regarding mine safety inspector notes. Following criticism, MSHA adjusted its policy to release inspector notes once citations were issued, rather than withholding them until the litigation concluded. Various congressional hearings were held to investigate mine safety practices and also the handling of the Sago disaster. Lawmakers sought to ensure comprehensive oversight and prevent future tragedies in the mining industry. Ultimately, for more than 40 long hours, families had waited anxiously outside of the mine. Every sound of machinery, every glimpse of light from below filled them with hope. They had wondered all that time, would their loved ones come out alive? At last, after a tough struggle against obstacles and a ticking clock, rescue teams did manage to get through. But what they found was heartbreaking. 12 miners had ultimately passed away due to the poisonous air, their hopes and futures gone in the dark, cold depths. Only one miner, Randall McCloy, had escaped, barely. Paramedics hurried him to the hospital, a flicker of hope in the great darkness. Doctors had fought hard to save him. Weeks later, he ultimately woke up to his wife Anna's tearful hug. Randall's recovery was long and tough. Though he had survived, the mine took a toll on him. He lost his friends, his fellow miners. But with Anna by his side, he relearned how to walk, how to talk, how to live. The Sago Mine disaster reminds us of the bravery of miners and the risks that they face daily. It's a tale of sacrifice, of enduring love in the face of tragedy, and of the indomitable human spirit that fights to survive against all odds. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to like and also subscribe for more documentaries about real-life tragedies.